Hi, my name is Jesse Durham, and in this video I want to share a little bit about how I came to see the infinite banking concept and how I've gotten to where I'm at now, where I actually teach and educate and coach and practice the concept myself. So my wife and I, we met in school and we had a pretty traditional trajectory, I would say. We were those high school sweethearts. We recently celebrated our 13th anniversary, married, 20 years together. We dated right at 7 years before we got married. We were young. And she pursued a 4-year degree in nursing. I pursued a 4-year degree. We went to the same college. I double majored in both Spanish and criminal justice. And then after we graduated on time, but with student loan debt, on time, we both started pursuing those careers. She in nursing in a hospital setting, and myself working for local law enforcement where I'm from in North Carolina. And I was in that career for a few years, loved it. I've got a great appreciation for those that serve and protect. And I did end up making a transition though. I started using my Spanish acumen. I took a local position at the high school where I could teach Spanish. It was a more family-friendly schedule, and we were happy for that because in my teaching years we did start to expand our family. We had our first 2 sons while I was still teaching. Now we have a daughter. But I had been in that career for a few years and had decided to make a transition into business. So it was actually in the same year that our second son was born. I was transitioning from a very typical, very traditional, very maybe even expected career path of being an employee into business for myself. And right in the middle of these family changes, these professional changes, lots and lots of different things going on, us deciding more about how we wanted to be able to homeschool our children and travel more. We had a lot going on. I had a friend who was also a business partner introduce me just by, we spoke on the phone very often. He gave me a phone call one day and he was excited about this idea of becoming your own banker. So it all started from that phone conversation, and that phone conversation led to me getting the book, getting Nelson's book, and I mean, it's just 90-something pages, big print, a lot of it's pictures. It's a very simple read, very easy read, but it matches its name when it says infinite banking concept. We could spend an infinite amount of time in this idea, and that's what I found myself doing was digging deeper, asking questions, and that same friend made sure that I was able to get to a live presentation where somebody was explaining the concept. And over that hour and a half, I had some more revelations, and I asked more questions and got more answers. And that's what started my path, coming from a very traditional background where, yes, I had acquired student loan debt, I'd gotten married, and we were having children, my wife and I had pursued traditional careers, and then I branched out in what was very new, very wild for me in a lot of ways in doing business because I didn't have a lot of influence growing up in that direction. And my father was an employee, and my mother was a homemaker. Wonderful childhood, wonderful growing up, but I had nobody that was pointing me in any direction of education and personal finance outside of what I read in my Bible, which is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I love that still. And yet I just found myself having this aha moment, my first aha moment, I should say, because over the years, because I saw that in 2015, and over the years, I've literally been walking and thinking about different things and had more aha moments and seeing more about how this idea of being your own banker, just how much space that covers. I mean, it's infinite. So I was able to see a live presentation, have my questions answered, talk to some other friends who had been practicing the idea personally for themselves as customers, clients, consumers, and in that same year, we got our first policy. We got a policy on myself. And it was right at a year, if that we got a policy on my wife. And since then, we've got a third policy, and we have plans for more upcoming policies in the works now, of course, because our family has grown. Our business and in the different areas that we touch in business has grown. And of course, we look to expand our private banking system, for ourselves as we continue to go through life. And even now, of course, our sons, in particular my oldest, will already start to use the phrase, "Daddy, I'm going to be my own banker." So I wanted to be able to share a little bit about my story and a little bit about my background, just so you know more about me, some things that you may not know, unless we've had, in-person conversation, which is always great. Look forward to having coffee and webinars and different things to be able to talk about you and your situation and your background, your needs, your ideas. But I did read Nelson's book, and I reread his book, and I asked questions from other folks that, again, as customers and clients, had been using the infinite banking concept in their business, in their private life. And I read the book, I reread the book, I listened to Nelson's CDs that came with the book. I read his second book, Building Your Warehouse of Wealth, and I found myself, getting more policies, reading as much as I can, expanding my knowledge and our approach practically to becoming our own bankers. And, along the way, we've been able to do things like pay off the last of our student loan debt using our infinite banking system, doing things like going on vacations. We've just been able to use our infinite banking system for lots of different things, facilitating business ventures. And that's been fantastic. And, the practice of being our own bankers has perhaps been where our greatest growth has occurred. Learning how to view premiums as deposits into our banking system. Learning how to discipline ourselves, not steal the peas. And to be clear, we've made perhaps every error that you could make, which always keeps me coming back to the book, paying more attention to the 5 laws that Nelson talked about, Willie Sutton's law, the golden rule, the entity, all these different things, and reviewing his philosophy of, approaching becoming your own banker with prophecy and logic and reason and imagination in mind. Especially for that first premium, that first check that we wrote, that was one of the biggest things, maybe the biggest thing financially that we'd ever done, we felt like, at that time. And again, I came from a background where I had a state retirement from both law enforcement and in being a public school teacher. We had a state retirement. We had been funding 401ks, myself and my wife both. And it was such a set it and forget it mindset. We had not had our hands on the wheel by any stretch of the imagination. And this was the complete opposite. We were the ones in control. We were the ones calling the shots. We were the ones that were making decisions about when and where and how and why we wanted to be performing and controlling the banking function in our life. And, where we put capital and how we access it and what for, and being honest banker and everything that it is to be your own banker. So we made plenty of errors along the way, but we constantly had more and more conversations, my wife and I, but also with other friends and business partners who had been practicing the concept for themselves personally. And then for sure, we just eventually got to where we were already, referring our friends to the book, our family and neighbors, to be able to read the book, to be able to see what was there. And for us, it meshed very well, partly because of our background, in Bible, in Scripture, and seeing how, Nash had a very similar approach. And if that's not your philosophy, if that's not your belief, that's fine. All I'm saying is that, it was a great thing for us to be able to see the natural truths that were laid out in Nelson's work and his perspective, and it was very helpful for us. So with the errors, but the constant dialing in of how we practice the infinite banking concept led to us sharing that with friends and family members and business partners and neighbors and church members, and gifting the book. And we just eventually made a transition into we want to share this infinite banking concept as consumers and customers and clients ourselves. And we got to a point where we wanted to have more ownership on how we shared this idea and how we were able to serve those that we cared about the most. Again, our church members, family members, neighbors, relatives, business partners, people that we went on vacation with. All the people that we cared about in our lives, we wanted to see them in the same position that we were, growing and expanding more and more into becoming our own bankers. That way, they would see those returns in their business and in their personal lives, and how that could grow into multi-generational thinking, much like what I was saying with how my son and I now get to speak about being our own bankers. Well, it led to, a YouTube channel. It led to a lot of in-person conversations. It led to, webinars and meeting and talking and answering questions. And we decided that we wanted to be able to do that professionally. My wife and I both have since gotten our licenses to be able to do as much hands-on work as we can in educating people, building policies appropriately for those specific needs in those families and in those businesses or those investing purposes. Being able to meet everybody where they're at and build for what's to be expected as well. Thinking long range like Nash always promoted. And us being able to do that. We were doing it anyway, as much as we could, just as consumers ourselves of whole life policies that have been properly structured for the banking purpose with great mutual companies that were paying dividends. And we definitely found ourselves wanting to do more. So it led to the YouTube channel. It led to conversations and meetings and presentations ourselves, us getting our licenses. And just there's something to be said too about teaching someone else. Is it's been said before that if somebody teaches, two are learning. Both the student and the coach are going to be learning in that situation for sure. So it's just become a part of our philosophy, our approach to life. It's our perspective now, being our own bankers, growing and expanding until our entire financial footprint will be encompassed with our banking system. So we're still people that are on the journey ourselves. We're still people that are on the path ourselves, and we're looking to be able to bring as many with us as have ears to hear and eyes to see. Again, it's 90-something pages of a book. It's on audio now. And I didn't write the book. I'm a simple man. I just read it and was able to understand more and more as time has gone on. So I would encourage you, if you're looking at this idea, vet the idea for yourself. Ask questions, read, listen, study. I believe that it can be done fairly quickly. But again, we either see something or we don't. We either hear something or we don't. And I know we can hear, and I know we can look, but we either see something or we hear it or we don't. It may take time. I have definitely understood enough pretty quickly to know that I wanted to get started, that I was wanting to be in control and starting to grow, both in understanding and also in practicing the infinite banking concept. I've learned very, very much along the way as well. There is that saying of how do you eat an elephant? Well, one bite at a time. The longest journey starts with one step. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope this will lead to you doing your reading, doing your listening, you picking up the phone and having conversations, you sending a message, you send us an email. Let us know something that you want to be covered. Let us know, personally or in video, what you would like us to be able to expand upon. And I would just encourage you to keep learning. Remember that arrival syndrome that Nelson mentioned. We've never arrived. If we have, we're going backwards. So I hope this has been helpful. It's been fun for me to be able to share a little bit about our journey. I'd love to be able to hear about your journey, see how we can help you along the way. You can reach me at 828-817-4223 or email durhamtalents@gmail.com. Hope you have a great day. I look forward to our next conversation.